Have you ever been with someone who made you feel like the most special person in the world for about maybe 3 months? You know, someone who came on strong, who pursued you intensely, who made you feel chosen, seen, wanted in a way that you've never experienced before. Someone who said all the right things, who made those romantic gestures, who seemed completely invested in building something real with you. And then just when you started to just kind of relax into that, just when you thought, okay, all right, so this feels real, this person is serious, they started to pull away. Not dramatically, not with a clear ending, just kind of started to fade, become distant, you know, lost interest, stop showing up in the way that they did in the beginning. Left you confused, wondering, you know, what changed? What did I do wrong? How did we go from so intense to so, you know, nothing? And you're not crazy, and you're not alone in that confusion, because we live in a culture that celebrates the beginning of relationships. You know, this chase, the pursuit, the falling, you know, that honeymoon phase. We're obsessed with the spark, the chemistry, the excitement of something new. Even social media is filled with it. You know, the early dates, the romantic gestures, I think I found the one posts. We document beginnings beautifully. We celebrate people who know how to make someone feel special in those first few months. But here's what nobody talks about. Being good at the beginning is not the same as being good at relationships. Being incredible at the first 3 months is not the same as being capable of the next 3 years. And there's an entire category of people, millions of them, who, you know, are absolutely masterful at starting relationships, but completely incapable of actually staying in them. You know, they're not players, they're not running game, they're not intentionally hurting people. They genuinely believe in each beginning that this time is different, that you're special, that they're finally ready. But once the beginning ends, once the excitement fades, once the newness starts to wear off, once it transitions from thrilling to real, they're gone. And not because you did something wrong, not because you weren't good enough, not because, you know, of any of those things, but because they're addicted to something you can't give them forever. And that's the feeling of a new beginning. You know, this is what I call the serial starter pattern. You know, it's one of the most confusing, painful, and exhausting relationship dynamics of our time. If you think about Drake for a moment, one of the biggest artists in the world, you know, this is a man who's built an entire career on understanding romance, on emotional vulnerability, and knowing exactly what women want to hear. He's dated some of the most incredible women on the planet. You know, Rihanna, Serena Williams, Jennifer Lopez, Georgia Smith, multiple models, actresses, successful, beautiful, interesting women. Women that most people would do anything to build something real with. And he couldn't make it work with any of them. Not one. Not because they weren't enough, not because the connection wasn't there, but because Drake is a textbook serial starter. This is someone who's incredible at the beginning, but can't transition to the middle. He knows how to pursue. He knows how to make someone feel special, knows how to create that intense connection in those first few months. But once it starts to get real, once it requires actual partnership, sustained effort, working through conflict, showing up when it's not exciting, he's out. And here's what makes this pattern, you know, so painful. It's not just happening to celebrities in, you know, high profile relationships. It's happening everywhere. It's happening to the person who's been on 50 dates, 50 first dates, let's say, but never makes it past month 3. It's happening to the person who's incredible at the talking stage, but then disappears once things get serious. It's happening to the person who falls hard and fast, makes you believe they're all in, then ghosts the moment you start expecting consistency. And it's happening to the person who's always looking for the next spark instead of building on the current connection. And, you know, if you've ever been on the receiving end of these types of patterns, if you've ever felt chosen and then abandoned, pursued and then ghosted, special then replaceable, you know that that's just a devastating feeling. That's devastating. You know, because serial daters don't just break your heart, they break your trust in your own judgment. You know, they make you question everything you thought was real. They leave you wondering if the entire beginning was a lie, but it wasn't a lie. That's the thing. It wasn't a lie. That's what makes it so confusing. You know, they're really meant in that moment. They felt it. They believed it. They genuinely believed it. They just can't sustain it because they're not actually building relationships. They're collecting beginnings. And, you know, once you start beginning with them, once you start your beginning with them is over, they're already looking for the next one. If you think about your own life for a moment, think about your own life, reflect on that. Have you ever been with a serial starter, someone who was all in at first but couldn't stay once things got real? Or, and this might be harder to admit here, but, you know, have you ever seen the serial starter, or have you ever been the serial starter yourself? Have you ever pursued someone intensely, made them feel special, genuinely believed it was real, and then, you know, lost interest once the newness wore off? Because this is not unique to only a selected few. And if you're honest, you might recognize this pattern again in your own behavior, the way you're incredible in the first few months but struggle once things transition to partnership, the way you're drawn to the excitement of someone new but bored by the stability of someone familiar, the way you're always chasing the feeling of falling instead of building something that lasts. And this is the serial starter pattern. You know, understanding how it works, why people actually get stuck in that type of pattern, what they're actually seeking, and how to break free from it is essentially essential if you kind of want to build real lasting connections instead of just kind of collecting exciting beginnings. Because here's the truth: beginnings are easy, staying hard, or staying is the hard part. And if you can't do the hard part, you'll spend your entire life just starting over and over and over and wondering why nothing ever lasts, why, you know, nothing, never realizing that, you know, the problem isn't who you're choosing, it's that you're only capable of choosing them for 3 months, sometimes 6 if you're lucky. And this is the serial starter trap. And it's destroying, you know, more relationships than cheating, more connections than distance, more potential than almost any other pattern in modern dating. So let's break it down.